Hello, everybody. This is Prisoners of Conscience in London. We're a small charity that does very crucial work helping people who have had to leave their own countries as refugees because of some act of conscience that they have undertaken. And what we do is help them to get scholarships or grants to continue their education or to revamp their qualifications they have in their own country to allow them to work in this country. I'm very proud and pleased to be the Vice Chair of Prisoners of Conscience. And I'm thrilled to be able to share my conversation with Baran, who is one of our beneficiaries at the moment. Baran is a Kurd from Turkey, and he's been here in Britain for 6 years, and he's just on the verge of qualifying with British lawyers' credentials. So, Baran, my first question to you, could you just tell people about when you very first came to Britain 6 years ago? What was it made you leave your home at that time and set off to be here?
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. Why I'm here, why I'm in the UK, because I defend the rights of the people, the Kurds. I defend the rights of the human rights victims in Turkey, and because I was an activist against the brutal state policies against Kurds in Turkey. That's why I'm here. It was very, very difficult to leave your own country, your home, your beloved ones, your family, your parents, everything you have on your own country, on your own home. But one day, just you left everything behind and you go to another place. In Turkey, maybe first I need to talk about the situation, political situation of Kurds in Turkey. It's from like the beginning of the foundation of Turkish Republic, the Kurds as a people hasn't been recognized by the government, by the state, Turkish state, and subjected to, have been subjecting to the assimilation and Turkification policies during the whole their histories. The Kurds have any basic human rights about their culture, cultural existence, about their existence as a people. Their language was banned. They don't have any education. They can't have any education on their own language. In public sphere, until 1990s, the Kurdish language was banned. You can't speak your language, your own language in the public sphere, public areas.
Can I just interrupt you there for a second to say that this picture of Kurdish deprivation of rights, as you say, it's gone on a long time. Yes. And it's been in waves. There have been times when negotiations with the Kurdish people have been undertaken by the central government. There have been times when Kurdish politicians have tried to run for office. And I think that perhaps what happened to you 7 years ago was the beginning of a new phase of arrests, deprivation of, as you say, education, and people disappearing, and a lot of people fleeing into exile. Was there one particular moment that you and your two brothers all decided that you were no longer safe, couldn't be safe in Turkey?
Yeah, because actually I was a human rights lawyer and activist in Turkish Kurdistan, in Turkish Kurdistan, North Kurdistan, we call it. My point to become an exile was I was tried. I went to trial in Turkish courts, and I was accused of being a member of terrorist organization, which is a very cheap and useful tool for all authoritarian governments to label as terrorists their opponents in their country. So I was a human rights lawyer. I was defending my clients, politicians, ordinary peoples, people who were chanting in demonstrations, like for like in a civil and peaceful demonstration. So in that, because of all these things, I was accused of being a member of terrorist organization, like so many people. Most of the people, Kurdish people who are very active, not even active, like who, if you join a demonstration, and you could have been like shot your video and or a photo, and while you are chanting against a government policy in a very peaceful protest, you could be charged as like a member of being as a member of terrorist organization. So
what kind of sentence did you fear that you could receive?
Actually, I was arrested in Turkey. I spent almost 2 years in a jail, and after I was released on bail. But at the same time, my case was going on. At the end of the day, they sentenced me to 8 years, 9 months in prison. So I had to leave. I appealed first to the higher courts, but the higher court, like the high court, like just refused my application. So I had two choices: either I leave the country or I was going to jail.
And how did you manage to leave the country?
Actually, I left the country by like by legal ways. I got a visa to the UK. I had my passport. The legal process was different from here because the trials could be long, very long time. Could take very long time. First, when I was arrested, it was 2006, and the last decision of the higher court made, it was like 2013, end of 2013. It takes like seven years. So I was released. I was on bail, but I could have like moved freely. So there wasn't any sanctions, like restrictions on me. So I had my passport and applied for visa to the UK embassy in Turkey, and I came to the London.
When you got here, did you speak English?
Not really. My English was very basic, on a very basic level. I couldn't express myself easily. Well, I tried hard. I studied hard to learn English.
How did it feel for you? From one minute you were a well-known human rights lawyer surrounded by a context, both social and family, that was your life. And then you arrived in Britain and you had great difficulty with the language. You didn't have a social network of any sort. How did you manage to get started?
Yeah, I think it was hope, and the difficulties you have experienced in your previous life makes you maybe stronger, because as I said, you have two choices. It's one way is going to start a new life. The other way takes you probably nowhere. So between these two choices, you have to be strong and make the right decision. You have to push yourself and with your hopes as well. Like this hope is like one day I'm going to back my my home country, I'm going to back my family, my hometown, and at least while I was here, while I was in another place, take all the advantages of being there in that place. Improve yourself, improve your language, improve your knowledge, improve your personality. When you go back to your original country, original place, at least you would say, okay, I suffered a lot, but at least it's worth it.
Well, let me say here that I think your hope and your determination over these 6 years is kind of like an example to many people who are in the beginning of this phase of being a refugee here. And I want to take one question that we've just had in, which involves a Kurdish family in the city of Sanctuary, which is York in the north of England. And here we have a husband and 3 children who are threatened with being deported. And the people looking after them there are asking what kind of resources and knowledge can they have to help them fight against this deportation. So I wanted straight away to respond to those people that the UK government itself has not actually denounced human rights abuse in Turkey, but the abuse of human rights defenders, particularly Kurds in Turkey, is extremely well known. And we in Prisoners of Conscience have given no less than 6 grants in recent years to human rights defenders from Turkey. And that is people like you who are lawyers or journalists and who have gone on with the help of Prisoners of Conscience to become very, very valid operators in the fields that they would have originally come from. And I want to say to the people in York that in 2018, there's a very good UN report on human rights abuse in Turkey. And there was another one in 2019 by Human Rights Watch. And I think those 2 resources are very useful to you. And in addition, you can, of course, always write into the staff here at Prisoners of Conscience. And somebody there will be ready to assist you with all the information that we have. So Baran, back to you and the new qualifications that you've managed to get. You've done a master's degree here, which is brilliant, well done. And I know now you're just waiting, probably in the next week, to get the final results of qualifying as a British solicitor. And that will, in a sense, take you back to very much the kind of life you could have had, although of course you don't have your family with you, but it gives you the status and the professionalism that you deserve in a British context, and which of course you had in Turkey. I'd just like to ask you a little bit about how it is keeping in touch with your 2 brothers. One of them I know is in Austria and one's in Poland, and the rest of your family, your parents and your sisters in Turkey. How do you keep the strength of that family unit alive by Facebook or Skype or whatever you do? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. In general, it is very difficult. It used to be very difficult to speak to your family members or your brother or parents. Especially, for example, I spent almost 2 years in a jail in Turkey, but my family could only have a chance to visit me 2 or 3 times, because they sent me a very, very long, very away place as city from my hometown. So my parents couldn't come it was really very like they couldn't afford coming there because it takes like 2 hours, two and a half hours by plane, and every week they can't afford that, and also they couldn't.
Them already for a long time before you even got here. Do you miss them very acutely now?
Yeah, I mean, I try to say, but now, for example, also when I was in jail, they couldn't let us because we had a right to a phone ride every week, 10 minutes, but they couldn't let us because they don't let us to speak in Kurdish. We have to speak in Turkish. Well, we were protesting them, so we couldn't get in touch with our families. But now you have lots of opportunities like Facebook, WhatsApp, other things. So it's not very difficult to be in touch with your family, but still like face to face. I haven't had any conversation with my mom like almost 6 years, with my dad. But yeah, I went to see my brothers. I went to Austria and Poland to see them. It was nice. It was, but also, yeah, still we speak each other like every week, a few times. So we have a very strong family ties because we grew up in a very like broad family environment, like so many cousins, brothers. We all grew up together. So our family ties is a bit stronger. So yeah, well, like this kind of Facebook or other social network tools are very useful to be in touch with them now.
Yes, that's fabulous. Could you tell us what was the help that you got from Prisoners of Conscience for your first degree and then for your later requalification?
Yeah, actually, first I applied for my master's degree. When I was applied to do a master's degree at Sussex University, I was doing it like part-time and applied for financial, like as a kind of scholarship to POC. And they helped me, and I really appreciate their help because without their help, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't afford the fee, like master fee, because I was doing that part time. At the same time, I was working to afford my like normal life expenses, and the POC helped me to pay the tuition fee. After that, after I graduated, I decided to get the UK qualification as a solicitor in the UK. But the course and exam fee is very, very expensive. Almost £7,500. It was very expensive to afford it. So I again applied to POC, and I really very appreciate their help to me. Without their assistance, financial assistance, I couldn't do that because really it's very expensive, and I don't think I could afford the exam fee and the course fee.
Of course, but I know that you yourself with your work, you did manage to pay a portion of your fees, which was fantastic. I just want to ask you, when you get your results later on this week or next week, who is the first person that you'll call to say, I'm now a lawyer again? Will it be your mom or will it be one of your brothers?
Probably I will call my mom and say, because she's very curious, she's worrying about it. She knows about it. I told her that I studied hard and we were in touch. She was always asking my study and the exam, and the first person will be my mom. Yes.
Okay. And once you've got that, you've passed and you've got your security, would you be still prepared or more prepared to work for Kurdish human rights?
Yes, my first aim is to work for my people, and not just my people, anybody on the earth who was a victim of human rights abusers, the state oppression. I will definitely work for them, and for also, yeah, as I said, for my people as well, for the Kurds.
Fantastic, Baran. I'm so proud of all your work, and everybody at POC is so happy that we were able to help you, and we're with you in the next stage of what you do as a lawyer. And thank you very much for spending your time with people here so that people could listen to you.
I want to thank you to you, POC, and all the donors who are listening to us now. I'm really very appreciate your donations. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Baran.